Well, all right, Yahsinni is in the house. And today I'm going to read you as much as I can out of this book called The Game of Life and How to Play It. So let me look and see. Let me look and check again who the author is. The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. So I guess you can tell by the name who wrote it. And it doesn't matter to me because when I'm reading to you, I'm only giving you the stuff that I've went through already, and it provokes thought, okay? There's messages throughout. However, some people might listen to the whole reading and get nothing out of it, and some people will listen to the reading and have their mind blown or immediately go into eureka moments, higher thought processes, or whatever you get out of my readings. That's cool. If you get nothing out of my readings, then keep watching the video until something clicks. I don't agree with everything that I read, but I don't want to take away from the author and his or her points of views. So therefore, I'll read it. However, I might throw some sarcasm in there. I may throw my 2 cents in there, or I may just, or I may not. But I will, because I do, because I want to. Yeah. So, Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It, Chapter 1. I hate this mouse, and it's going to make noises the whole time. Even if I click, it's loud. So, most people consider life a battle, but it is not a battle. It is a game. It is a game, however, which cannot be played successfully without the knowledge of spiritual law. And the Old and New Testaments give the rules of the game with wonderful clearness. Jesus Christos, the mythological character, taught the groove our only God, we shall all be moved. Okay, I didn't play that. That came in by itself. I promise you I didn't play that. So let me close this stuff out. But hey, it is what it is. So I said Jesus Christo taught that it was a great game of giving and receiving. Yeah. So here's a quote. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. This means that whatever man sends out in word or deed will return to him. What he gives, he will receive. If he gives hate, he will receive hate. If he gives love, he will receive love. If he gives criticism, he will receive criticism. If he lies, he will be lied to. If he cheats, he will be cheated. We are taught also that the imaging faculty plays a leading part in the game of life. So here's a quote from Proverbs 4:23. Keep thy heart or imagination with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. This means that what man images, sooner or later externalizes in his affairs. I know of a man who feared a certain disease. It was a very rare disease and difficult to get, but he pictured it continually and read about it until it manifested in his body, and he died, the victim of distorted imagination. Okay? So we see, to play successfully the game of life we must train the imaging faculty. A person with an imaging faculty trained to image only good things brings into his life every righteous desire of his heart, health, wealth, love, friends, perfect self-expression, his highest ideals. The imagination has also been called, quote, the scissors of the mind, end quote, and it is ever cutting day by day. The pictures man sees there, and sooner or later, he meets his own creations in his outer world. So to train the imagination successfully, man must understand the workings of his mind. The Greeks said, and I quote them, know thyself, end quote. There are three departments of the mind: the subconscious, conscious, and the superconscious. The subconscious is simply power without direction. It is like steam or electricity, and it does what it is directed to do. It has no power of induction. So whatever man feels deeply or images clearly is impressed upon the subconscious mind and carried out in the minutest detail. For example, a woman I know when a child was always made believe she was a widow. She dressed up in black clothes and wore a long black veil, and people thought she was very clever and amusing. She grew up and married a man with whom she was deeply in love. In a short time, he died, and she wore black and a sweeping veil for many years. The picture of herself as a widow was impressed upon a subconscious mind, and in due time worked itself out, regardless of the havoc it created. Okay? So the conscious mind has been called mortal or carnal mind. Okay? It is the human mind and sees life as it appears to be. Okay? It sees death, disaster, sickness, poverty, and limitation of every kind, and it impresses the subconscious. So the superconscious mind is the God mind. Yeah. Within each man, and is the realm of perfect ideas. In it is the perfect pattern spoken of by Plato, the divine design, for there is a divine design for each person. There is a place that you are to feel and no one else can feel. Sometimes you are to do which no one else can do. There is a perfect picture of this in the superconscious mind. It usually flashes across the conscious as an unattainable idea or something too good to be true. In reality, it is man's true destiny or destination flashed to him from the infinite intelligence which is within himself. Many people, however, are in ignorance of their true destinies and are striving for things and situations which do not belong to them and would only bring failure and dissatisfaction if attained. For example, a woman came to me and asked me to speak the word that she would marry a certain man in whom she was very much in love. Okay, so she called him A period B period, so AB. I replied that this would be a violation of spiritual law, but that I would speak the word for the right man, the divine selection, the man who belonged to her by divine right. I added, quote, if AB is the right man, you can't lose him. And if he isn't, you will receive his equivalent. She saw AB frequently, but no headway was made in their friendship. One evening she called and said, do you know, for the last week, AB hasn't seemed so wonderful to me? And I replied, maybe he is not the divine selection. Another man might be the right one. Soon after that, she met another man who fell in love with her at once and who said she was his ideal. In fact, he said all the things that she had always wished AB would say to her. Okay? She remarked, it was quite uncanny. So, she soon returned his love and lost all interest in AB. So this shows the law of substitution. A right idea was substituted for a wrong one. Therefore, there was no loss or sacrifice involved. So the mythological Jesus Christo said, Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. And he said the kingdom was within man. And I believe he was saying it just like I just said it, like yelling and shit, like, didn't I tell you? That was my best theatrical performance. Ye are gods. Yeah. So anyway, the kingdom is the realm of right ideas or the divine pattern. So Jesus taught that man's words played a leading part in the game of life. Here's a quote. By your words ye are justified, and by your words ye are condemned. End quote. Many people have brought disaster into their lives through idle words. For example, a woman once asked me why her life was now one of poverty and limitation. Formerly, she had a home, was surrounded by beautiful things, and had often tired of the management of her home, and had said repeatedly, quote, I'm sick and tired of things. I wish I lived in a trunk, end quote. And she added, quote, today I am living in that trunk. She has spoken herself into a trunk. The subconscious mind has no sense of humor, and people often joke themselves into unhappy experiences. For example, a woman who had a great deal of money joked continually about, quote, getting ready for the poorhouse, end quote. In a few years, she was almost destitute, having impressed the subconscious mind with a picture of lack and limitation. Fortunately, the law works both ways, and a situation of lack may be changed to one of plenty. For example, a woman came to me one hot summer's day for a treatment of prosperity. She was worn out, dejected, and discouraged. She said she was possessed. She said she possessed just $8 in the world. I said, good. We'll bless the $8 and multiply them as Jesus multiplied the loaves and fishes. For he taught that every man had the power to bless and to multiply, to heal and to prosper. She said, what shall I do next? I replied, follow intuition. You have a hunch to do anything or go anywhere. Intuition means intuition or to be taught from within. It is man's under-erring guide, and I will deal more fully with this laws in the following chapter. So, the woman replied, I don't know. I seem to have a hunch to go home. I have just enough money for car fare. So her home was in a distant city and was one of lack and limitation. And the reasoning mind or intellect will have said, stay in New York and get work and make some money, Bill. I added Bill. I said, then go home. Never violate a hunch. I spoke the following words for her, okay? And, and this is the kind of stuff that I write down when I'm reading this kind of stuff, right? Infinite Spirit opened the way for great abundance for blank. She is an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to her by divine right. I told her to repeat it continually also. She left her home immediately. And calling on a woman one day, she linked up with an old friend of her family. Through this friend, she received thousands of dollars in the most miraculous way. She has said to me often, tell people about the woman who came to you with $8 and a hunch. Okay, so there's always plenty on man's pathway, but it can only be brought into manifestation through desire, faith, or the spoken word. Now, Jesus brought out clearly that man must make the first move. In Matthew 7:7, he said, ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be open unto you. Yeah. So in the scriptures we read, quote, concerning the works of my hands, command ye me, end quote. Infinite intelligence. God is ever ready to carry out man's smallest or greatest demands. Every desire, uttered or unexpressed, is a demand. We are often startled by having a wish suddenly fulfilled. Yeah. For example, one Easter, having seen many beautiful rose trees in the florist's windows, I wished I would receive one, and for an instant saw it mentally being carried in the door. So Easter came, and with it a beautiful rose tree. I thanked my friend the following day and told her it was just what I had wanted. She replied, I didn't send you a rose tree. I sent you lilies. The man had mixed the order and sent me a rose tree simply because I had started the law in action and I had to have a rose tree. So nothing stands between man and his highest ideals and every desire of his heart except doubt and fear. When man can wish without worrying, every desire will be instantly fulfilled, or I promise you it will. Yeah. So I will explain more fully in the following chapter the scientific reason for this, and fear must be erased from the consciousness. No, I'm for real now. This is me agreeing with shit that I read. Fear must be erased from the consciousness, and not just in you, but in all of our people. We have got to stop all of that motherfucking scary ass shit. Okay? A picture of an African face, wooden face on your wall, it's not voodoo. And I'm so sick of ignorant black folks and niggas being spooked by every motherfucking thing. They can't do this and they can't do that. Why? No fucking reason. Just idiosyncrasies and fear, unabashed. There's no reason for it. It may be learned behavior, so that would be the only reason if someone taught you to fear 100 million, trillion, hell for things that you don't even know what they really mean. You don't know the etymology of the words that they called it or nothing. Y'all gotta cut that bullshit out. Uh, cut that bullshit out. That was a shout out to my older brother, Herb, R.I.P. Yeah. So I will explain more fully in another chapter. Okay? The scientific reason for this, and fear must be erased from the consciousness. It is man's only enemy. Fear of lack, fear of failure, fear of sickness, fear of loss, and a feeling of insecurity on some plane. Jesus told you, why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? And that was in Matthew 8:26. So we can see we must substitute faith for fear. For fear is only inverted faith. It is faith in evil instead of good. Okay? That's what fear is. Faith in evil instead of good. So the object of the game of life is to see clearly one's good and to obliterate all mental pictures of evil. This must be done by impressing the subconscious mind with the realization of good. A very brilliant man who has attained great success told me he has suddenly erased all fear from his consciousness by reading a sign which hung in a room. He saw printed in large letters this statement: "Why worry? It will probably never happen." Listen. Happen. Yeah. So, in the following chapter, let me see. These words were stamped indelibly upon his subconscious mind, and he has now a firm conviction that only good can come into his life. Therefore, only good can manifest. Yeah, try it. In the following chapter, I will deal with the different methods of impressing the subconscious mind. It is man's faithful servant, but one must be careful to give it the right orders. Man has ever a silent listener at his side, his subconscious mind. So every thought, every word is impressed upon it and carried out in amazing detail. It is like a singer making a record on the sensitive disc of the phonographic plate. Every note and every tone of the singer's voice is registered. If he coughs or hesitates, it is registered also. So let us break all the old bad records in the subconscious mind. Yeah, the records of our lives which we do not wish to keep, and make new and beautiful ones. Yeah. Speak those words aloud with power and conviction. Speak these words aloud. Listen. I now smash and demolish by my spoken word every untrue record in my subconscious mind. They shall return to the dust heap of their native nothingness, for they came from my own vain imaginings. I now make my perfect records through the Christ within. Yeah. The records of health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. This is the square of life. The game completed. So in the following chapters, I will show you how man can change his conditions by changing his words. Any man who does not know the power of the word is behind the times. Yeah, I didn't say that. She did. So here's a quote from Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. And I'm going to see if I want to read you chapter 2, the law of prosperity. Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't. So let's go. One of the greatest measures of one stop it. One of the greatest messages given to the race through the scriptures is that God is man's supply and that man can release through his spoken word all that belongs to him by divine right. He must, however, have perfect faith in the spoken word. So Isaiah said, quote, "My word shall not return to me void, but shall accomplish that where it is sent." End quote. We know now that words and thoughts are a tremendous vibratory force, ever molding man's body and affairs. Yeah. So a woman came to me in great distress and said she was to be sued on the 15th of the month for $3,000. She knew no way of getting the money and was in despair. I told her God was her supply and that there is a supply for every demand. So I spoke the word. I gave thanks that the woman would receive $3,000 at the right time in the right way. I told her she must have perfect faith and act her perfect faith. Yeah. So the 15 came, but no money had materialized. She called me on the phone and asked me, "What am I to do?" I replied, "It's Saturday, so they won't sue you today. Your part is to act rich, thereby showing perfect faith that you will receive it by Monday." So she asked me to go to lunch with her to keep up her courage. When I joined her at a restaurant, I said, "This is no time to economize. Order an expensive luncheon. Act as if you have already received the $3,000. Yeah, don't try this at home." All things whatsoever ye ask in prayer, believing, you shall receive. You must act as if you had already received. The next morning, she called me on the phone and asked me to stay with her during the day. I said, "No, you're divinely protected. God is never too late." Okay. So in the evening, she phoned again, greatly excited, and said, "My dear, a miracle has happened. I was sitting in my room this morning and the doorbell rang. I said to the maid, 'Don't let anyone in.' The maid, however, looked out the window and said, 'It's your cousin with the long white beard.' So I said, 'Call him back. I would like to see him.' He was just turning the corner when he heard the maid's voice, and he came back. Yeah, so he talked for about an hour. And just as he was leaving, he said, 'Oh, by the way, how are your finances?' I told him I needed the money, and he said, 'Why, my dear, I will give you $3,000 the first of the month.' I didn't like to tell him I was going to be sued. What shall I do? I won't receive it till the first of the month, and I must have it tomorrow," I said. "I'll keep on treating." I said, "Spirit is never too late. I give thanks she has received the money on the invisible plane and that it manifests on time." Okay? So the next morning, her cousin called her up and said, "Come to my office this morning and I will give you the money." That afternoon, she had $3,000 to her credit in the bank and wrote checks as rapidly as her excitement would permit. So if one asks for success and prepares for failure, he will get the situation he has prepared for. For example, a man came to me asking me to speak the word that a certain debt would be wiped out. So I found he spent his time planning what he would say to the man when he did not pay his bill, thereby neutralizing my words. He should have seen himself paying the debt. We have a wonderful illustration of this in your Bible relating to the three kings who were in the desert without water for their men and horses. They consulted the prophet Elijah, who gave them this astonishing message. Quote, "Thus saith the Lord, ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain, yet make this valley full of ditches." End quote. So man must prepare for the thing he has asked for when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. For example, a woman found it necessary to look for an apartment during the year when there was a great shortage of apartments in New York. It was considered almost an impossibility, and her friends were sorry for her and said, "Isn't it too bad? You'll have to store your furniture and live in a hotel." She replied, "You needn't feel sorry for me. I'm a superman, and I'll get an apartment." Oh, shit. I hate this mouse. Okay, he said, "I'll get an apartment." She spoke the words. Infinite Spirit opened the way for the right apartment. She knew there was a supply for every demand and that she was unconditioned, working on the spiritual plane, and that one with God is a majority. And that, quote, one with God is a majority, end quote. She had contemplated buying new blankets when the tempter, the adverse thought or reasoning mind, suggested, "Don't buy the blankets. Perhaps, after all, you won't get an apartment and you will have no use for them." She promptly replied to herself, "I'll dig my ditches by buying the blankets." So she prepared for the apartment, acted as though she already had it. Yeah, she found one in a miraculous way, and it was given to her, although there were over 200 other applicants. The blankets showed active faith. It's needless to say that the ditches dug by the three kings in the desert were filled to overflowing. Yeah, read 2 Kings. So getting into the spiritual swing of things, it is no easy matter for the average person. The adverse thoughts of doubt and fear surge from the subconscious. They are the, quote, army of the aliens, end quote, which must be put to flight. Yeah, this explains why it's so often darkest before dawn. So a big demonstration is usually preceded by tormenting thoughts. Having made a statement of high spiritual truth, one challenges the old beliefs in the subconscious and error is exposed to be put out. So this is the time when one must make his affirmations of truth repeatedly and rejoice and give thanks that he has already received. Before ye call, I shall answer. This means that every good and perfect gift is already man's awaiting his recognition. Okay? Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving. The children of Israel were told that they could have all the land they could see. This is true of every man. He has only the land within his own mental vision. Every great work, every big accomplishment has been brought into manifestation through holding to the vision, and often just before the big achievement comes apparent failure and discouragement. So the children of Israel when they reached the promised land, were afraid to go in, for they said it was filled with giants who made them feel like grasshoppers. And there we saw the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers. That's the quote. This is almost every man's experience. However, the one who knows spiritual law is undisturbed by appearance and rejoices while he is yet in captivity. So, that is, he holds to his vision and gives thanks that the end is accomplished he has received. Okay? So, Jesus gave a wonderful example of this. He said to his disciples, quote, "Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are ripe already to harvest." End quote. So his clear vision pierced the world of matter, and he saw clearly the fourth dimensional world, things as they really are, perfect and complete and divine mind. So man must ever hold the vision of his journeys in and demand the manifestation of that which he has already received. It may be his perfect health, love, supply, self-expression, home, or friends. Yeah, they're all finished and perfect ideas registered in divine mind, which is man's own superconscious mind, and must come through him, not to him. For example, a man came to me asking for treatments for success. It was imperative that he raise within a certain time $50,000 for his business. The time limit was almost up when he came to me in despair. No one wanted to invest in his enterprise, and the bank had flatly refused the loan. I replied, "I suppose you lost your temper while at the bank, therefore your power." Yeah, you can control any situation if you first control yourself. Go back to the bank, I added, and I will treat. My treatment was, you are identified in love with the spirit of everyone connected with the bank. Let the divine idea come out of this situation. And he replied, "Woman, you are talking about an impossibility. Tomorrow is Saturday. The bank closes at 12, and my train won't get me there until 10, and the time limit is up tomorrow, and anyway, they won't do it. It's too late." I replied, "God doesn't need any time, and it's never too late. With him, all things are possible." I added, "I don't know anything about business, but I know all about God." And he replied, "It all sounds fine when I sit here listening to you, but when I go out, it's terrible." So he lived in a distant city, and I did not hear from him for a week. Then came a letter, and it read, "You were right. I raised the money and will never again doubt the truth of all that you told me." So I saw him a few weeks later, and I said, "What happened? You evidently had plenty of time after all." He replied, "My train was late, and I got there just 15 minutes to 12. I walked into the bank quietly and said, 'I have come for the loan.' And they gave it to me without a question." Don't try that at home. It was the last 15 minutes of the time allotted to him, and Infinite Spirit was not too late. In this instance, the man could never have demonstrated alone, okay? He needed someone to help him hold to the vision. This is what one man can do for another. Yeah, Jesus knew the truth of this when he said, quote, if two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. End quote. One gets too close to his own affairs and becomes doubtful and fearful. The friend or healer sees clearly the success, health, or prosperity and never wavers because he is not close to the situation. It is much easier to demonstrate for someone else than for oneself. So a person should not hesitate to ask for help if he feels himself wavering. A keen observer of life once said, quote, no man can fail if one person sees him successful, end quote. Such is the power of the vision, and many a great man owed his success to a wife or a sister or a friend who believed in him and held without wavering to the perfect pattern. Yes, so surely there's some messages in those two chapters. And although I would love to read more, I'm not. You know why? Because I've already spent too much oxygen. Thirsty. And I don't feel like it. I don't. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to come back and start at chapter 3 because this really is a lot of interesting selections of phrases, paragraphs, thoughts, advice, ideals, and truth, and non-truths. Because there's going to be duality in everything. So I like to say, keep the good shit, toss the rest. Yeah. And with that being read, with that being said, hopefully you were fed. And I promise you, I'm going to bed because I'm tired. And that's the reason why I haven't been bringing you anything, is because I don't feel like it. I'm serious. I'd like to bring you more stuff, and I've got like a shitload, and this is never ending shit with me. I'm constantly finding things that pique my faculties, my mental faculties, and knowing that there's others out there that could get with this as well. This is why I bring you these readings, these messages, these thoughts, my 2 cents, all of that, all in one bag. But I told you one video ago I was dealing with some fucking issues, and I am. I'm healing myself slowly but surely, and it's not that serious. It's just my own doings, and I'm gonna reverse it and feel better soon, and hopefully be able to come to you with full personality. Although I didn't do too bad today, so I don't think I did.